Welcome back, everyone. I'm Theo.
And I'm Valen.
And today we will be talking about something somewhat different, definitely still related to K-pop, but not a specific group, more of a little bit more of a societal thing that'll likely have a noticeable impact on the K-pop industry and Korea as a whole, which is, of course, a giant elephant in the room when you talk about Korean society, the incredibly low birth rates. Currently, as of 2024, it is on 0.68 children per woman. That means less than one. We're reaching half a child per woman, which will, as you can probably predict, obviously have a noticeable impact on Korea because there will quite simply be less Koreans. Now, will this mean, Koreans are going extinct or anything along these lines, like any of these crazy, clickbait titles you'll hear? No, it won't mean that. I mean, if you look at the global population in general, it has completely exploded over the last 100 years. So in many ways, it'll likely just return to like 1900 levels.
Exactly.
And I mean, nobody was extinct before that either. So don't worry about that. Koreans aren't going extinct, but it definitely will have an influence on the K-pop industry, which is obviously something we talk a lot about here on the channel.
True.
So therefore, I think it's also a topic that's definitely worth covering. But before we begin, make sure to like the video if you enjoy our content and comment down below what kind of content you want us to react to in the future from your favorite K-pop groups. And of course, we also have so much K-pop content over on Patreon from so many different groups. We got albums, live performances, concert performances, encores, variety shows over on Patreon, and it's also the best way to support the channel. So yeah, head on over to Patreon if you want to check all that stuff out. Now, before we begin talking about the declining birth rates relationship to K-pop specifically, let's just real quickly catch up on exactly why Korean women are having so few children. And now on average, that has a lot to do with, the very competitive work environment, people giving up their whole lives to advance their careers, generally stressful educational expectations from parents can be a big issue, and just generally a quite workaholic culture. Plus, as everywhere else, there is literally a global cost of living crisis, which is just a nice way of saying we're all getting poor, except the very rich, though. They're getting richer, just saying. Just letting you know, guys. So in an environment like that, where you're worried about, damn, how am I going to be able to, pay my rent, let alone get a house? I'm living in a small apartment. Also, in Korea, the whole population and the whole economy is very centered around Seoul.
And apart from that, I think like this very culture of individualism as well.
Sure.
Where they don't interact with each other that much.
Sure.
They're more like the rise of loneliness.
It's very true.
Very high.
That's true.
People are just not getting into relationships.
That's true. Yes.
That's one thing that you see both in the West too.
Yeah.
But mainly in Asia as well.
Yeah,
Japan,
in East
Korea.
Asia, Japan, and South Korea, the loneliness epidemic is a real serious situation as well.
Exactly.
So because of these different compounding factors, if you will, within the society, people aren't having kids, which, is not that surprising, to be honest. But what influence is that going to have on the K-pop industry, which is, one of the biggest, it is the biggest cultural export of Korea, I think we can say, by far. I mean, even outshining K-dramas, all of these things, which
I will say so, K-pop,
definitely. But those things will likely also suffer if there's just quite simply way fewer Koreans around to make the content, quite simply.
I read about it the other day, that there's a big decline in trainees.
Okay.
In trainees on K-pop because of the same thing, that there's just less people, I guess, less students, I don't know, less people want to get into the K-pop industry as well. We are already starting to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's less young people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now they want these trainees that are so young too. So exactly, there's less kids, less people. So there's less trainees for sure. So I'm pretty sure it will affect K-pop.
That sounds very likely.
Yeah.
But how will it affect K-pop? Because I see sort of three different possibilities, right?
Okay.
Number one is that somehow the government, the Korean society manages to reverse the decline quite simply, and nothing happens essentially. That's number one. But that is the likelihood of that happening is sadly quite low for the time being. The two other options will essentially be that K-pop will slowly become less Korean quite simply, as they bring in more people from the rest of Asia, people from everywhere,
and
actually.
They're already doing it.
Yeah, because not only Asians. I know, like, before, it was mainly other Asians, Thais, Filipinos, Chinese, Japanese people that got into the K-pop industry. But now, it sort of seems like non-Asian people are actually being brought into it.
Or Asians from the West, or literally straight up non-Asian
Non-Asians. Like, look at Hybe's new group, for example.
Cat's Eye, exactly.
For example. Yes. So that is possibility one. Quite simply that potentially Korea in and of itself will become less Korean because of immigration. You know, people are going to be immigrating to the country, and the Koreans are simply just not having kids. Thus, the ethnic Korean element of Korea will become less prevalent, and the K-pop industry, which is obviously representative of the society, which, you know, usually a pop industry is going to be to some extent of the society it comes from, will quite simply become less Korean, and thus, like, change the face of K-pop. Will it stay popular?
Yeah.
Will it not? We can talk about that in a bit. But that is one of the things that could happen.
Actually, that will make a lot of sense.
Yes.
Because there is starting to, since the rise of K-pop, and even before, there's been a lot of immigration.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but immigration, and now even more.
Sure.
Because so many people want to visit Korea because of K-pop, because of K-dramas. They stay to live there.
Hey, man.
So it might change.
At least, you know, let's say like the Westerners that move to Korea, it's at least people who are really like into Korean culture.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they want to assimilate.
They want to assimilate.
At least that's cool. I like that though. That's cool.
That's true.
For sure. But I mean, all in all, it will likely, you know, become less like ethnically Korean over time, and what that will do to Korean society and K-pop in general remains to be seen. It also depends on a lot about, you know, where these immigrants are coming from, things like that. But that could be really interesting.
Yeah.
That's option number 2. Option number 3 is K-pop could potentially just decline because there'll be less, you know, money going into the South Korean economy. There'll be less trainees, what have you. So the K-pop industry, like the rest of the Korean economy and cultural output, if you will, could potentially just decline. Will that mean the death of K-pop? I don't think so.
No.
Like, even if, you know, there were 1/4 as many like South Koreans as there are now, there would still be plenty of K-pop to go around. Like, there's so many groups out there.
And there's so many people who want to join still.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely.
So I don't see like K-pop dying in that way.
And that means less competition. I will join, actually.
Sure.
This will be the time to join.
Sure, as a foreigner, but that leads back into the other theory.
Yeah.
That then, you know, it will essentially change a lot.
It will change.
It will
K-pop
change.
will change.
It will
Inevitable.
become essentially just another facet of international pop music.
True.
Potentially the most international pop genre. Because the American pop industry, while certainly, you know, very globally listened to, is still mainly done by Americans. I mean, it's Americans are sure different ethnicities or what have you, but it's Americans.
American.
You get
exactly.
me? And like other international artists, you know, they mainly come from their own music industry and gain, you know, international fame. But I think the Korean industry, the Korean music industry in and of itself, you know, because they have such a big international outreach now, could just end up becoming its own hyper international, like Mr. Worldwide music industry, quite simply.
True.
I can see that.
I can see that happening, definitely. Bringing all these people from all around the world.
Sure.
And just having it more like universal pop or something.
Yeah.
Mainly in English.
I mean, but that's also what we're sort of seeing. A lot of groups are starting to do a lot of English music.
Completely in English.
Let's say, I know they're not technically K-pop, but they're within the K-pop industry. Let's see, XG. XG, Extraordinary Girls, X Galaxy. They are singing entirely in English.
Exactly.
Completely. And they've worked a lot on their accent. They're doing a great job, and they've had a lot of success with that.
Exactly.
You know, and so if you
works.
look at them, or if you look at BTS's English music, I know that's pretty, you know, divisive among their fans, their English songs, but nonetheless, it did give them a lot of success.
It did.
It did.
It did break them into the Western market.
For sure.
Just
or
like that.
Let's look at ATEEZ. ATEEZ as well is probably even more popular outside of Korea than they are inside of Korea. I mean, their Coachella performance was so amazing and so hyped up by a lot of fans there, and it was actually really cool to react to. You can see our reaction to that over on Patreon as well.
Insane.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are like the different options I see.
100%. I would say obviously the best one will be the first one, where the government actually does something.
Look,
to help them, their society.
in my
itself.
opinion, I don't think the birth rates of the world, like there are some people who are like, oh, I don't care, we should just keep on having children. There's still forests we can cut down. It's fine.
No,
I'm not on that team like at all.
Me neither.
And neither am I on like total just let's go back to the Stone Age level like team. But I do think that it is good to like have a smaller population than than what we have now in every single country, literally every single country.
Every country should have
but the
less.
South Korean situation is quite simply unsustainable. Like that's a lot in a
Yes.
couple of generations.
Yes.
You
And
know?
the government needs to do something.
Uh-huh.
Obviously not put it up that high, but higher.
Well, but that is entirely out of our control, you know?
Exactly.
So
There's nothing we can do.
no, sadly, but it will be interesting to see which
What happens?
What will happen with regards to
Exactly.
it and K-pop, because again, like K-pop at the end of the day is Korean, so
Of course.
it's going to change depending on how Korean society as a whole changes,
Exactly.
and I don't know.
Well, we'll have to see in the
We'll
future.
quite simply have to see. But which one are you gonna guess it'll most likely be? If you
Yeah.
have to guess right now how K-pop is gonna be in 25 years, how do you think it will be? I'm curious because you know even more than me.
I will say it will be a mixture of the second and third.
Okay.
The K-pop will decline in not in popularity,
No.
but in people, in groups, in new people, obviously, because there's gonna be less young people.
Sure.
But at the same time, it will still be famous and popular,
Mm-hmm.
and it will change. It will be less Korean because they will bring more international
Sure.
people.
That's literally what's happening.
That's what's
I mean,
happening right now,
yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be in 30 years. It's gonna be.
Okay, so you just see like
Most likely, that's what I'm thinking right now, but it might
just
change.
a continuation of the trend we're already
Exactly,
witnessing,
slowly.
but just with also maybe a little bit less groups coming out
Yeah.
of new groups. But you
Makes
think
sense.
it'll stay popular in the same level, at
I
the
would
same
say
level,
so.
right?
I would say so because there's so many groups debuting and like not even half of them
Yeah.
are that big.
No.
Actually, I wouldn't say so. So if there's like half of them, but they're all good and like big and popular, still gonna
Sure.
be good.
I personally see it like this. I don't see K-pop slowing down in terms of its popularity because where is K-pop also very big? That's in a lot of the the developing world, if you want to use that type of terminology. And these countries are becoming a lot richer, a lot faster, and they're the ones listening to it. So
Exactly.
likely, actually, the income that K-pop in general is going to generate, I think, will be even higher because that is almost the go-to pop industry for a lot of these people.
True.
You know, just like for a lot of Europe, the American pop industry is almost like the go-to industry for like, you know, new pop music. In a lot of, let's say, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, what have you, they look a lot towards the K-pop industry, both for domestic artists and also just for what they listen to.
Exactly.
So I see it generally becoming bigger. Also with India, you know, India is growing. The Chinese economy is, well, it's already big, the Chinese economy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money to be made for Chinese idols within the K-pop industry
Exactly.
and within China. So I don't see it slowing down, even if the Korean population declines to a certain extent. But if it continues just like it is now, with them literally having more or less half a child per woman, I feel like at some point it will inevitably become somewhat smaller, and maybe more the influence of K-pop. The K-pop producers, the K-pop artists might stay relevant, but Korea's own, you know, possibility to come with more new artists, come with more output might decline very significantly.
Definitely.
But the influences of K-pop will stay.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
see that
I
being
agree.
pretty likely if the population just declines like
Exactly.
it does. And that's okay. You know, like K-pop is going to change.
Exactly.
Everything changes.
Everything
If you look at
changes.
the American pop industry, 30 years ago is a lot different than it is now.
Exactly.
If you look at most things, they change over time. I mean, even our language, everything changes, and that's okay.
Everything changes.
Everything comes, everything goes, and that's an important part of life to understand.
True.
So where it will go, I don't know, but it will definitely change based upon quite simply, the birth rates.
Yes.
Because all of Korea is about to change because of this, and that's inevitable. I hope it doesn't happen in such a drastic way as it is, because, I mean, I don't think that's to the benefit of anyone, and it obviously also shows that there is some social problems within Korea. I don't know, like, I don't want anyone to be overworked. I don't want anyone to stress all day.
Exactly.
And it seems like it's a thing that a lot of people in South Korea are really struggling with currently. And also, you know, with the cost of living crisis, that's like in a lot of the developed world currently, in first world countries, what have
Exactly.
you, and also, you know, the rest of the world for that matter.
Exactly.
A lot of people are struggling in a lot of different places, and that doesn't really make people want to have children.
No,
in general.
not even in the third world countries. What you say?
I mean-
not even there. They're actually declining. Like for example, here in Colombia,
Yeah.
it is declining, and less the youth
Yeah.
want to have, like, they don't want to have that many kids or
Yeah.
kids at all.
And honestly, I think that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's okay to have less than 2 children per family.
I think it's okay.
It's all right because it's kind of inevitable. We were a much smaller population 100 years ago. We've currently never been more people on the planet. It's clearly stressing the environment. It's clearly stressing all of our planet, quite simply.
It needs to go down.
It needs to go down. The population needs to certainly go down, but I think this is too much of a change in too little time, and it will have a noticeable impact on all of Korea's cultural output, if you will.
Exactly.
Yes, I think that's what's going to happen. What do you guys think is going to happen? It'll actually be interesting to see, because I know we have a lot of Korean followers, so I'm really interested to hear you guys' ideas and maybe also your input, because obviously you're closer to this situation than we ever have been. Like, I know a bunch of Koreans, but I've never been to Korea.
No, me
like
neither.
I literally haven't. So
we have not been there.
We might be missing a couple of interesting sort of facts or like viewpoints, and it would be interesting to also hear those in the comments. So let us know regarding that. But nonetheless, everyone, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope this was an interesting, sort of different video, but definitely something I think that's worth talking about.
True.
Because we cover K-pop very extensively on this channel for sure. So I kind of felt the need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, everyone, thank you so much for watching the video, and see you in the next one.
Bye bye, guys. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Take care.